The day my father was buried, I received a letter that changed everything. He left it all to you. They lied. Now I know the truth. My brother stole my inheritance, buried my father's secrets, and almost got away with murder. But I'm not the quiet daughter anymore. I'm the heir. And I'm back to burn the empire down brick by brick. My name is Ilara Ran, and until 2 months ago, I believed I knew what betrayal felt like. The day I lost both my parents in that car crash, when the brakes mysteriously failed, I thought, nothing could break me beyond that. But grief has levels, and hell has hidden doors. And I was about to step through one. I worked as a crisis consultant for corporate disasters. My job was to come in when companies were crumbling under scandal, theft, or hostile takeover threats. I cleaned up messes, I protected reputations, and I was damn good at it. At 29, I'd helped salvage 6 Fortune 500 companies, most recently Weston and Bell, a rising tech firm with something no one else had. Project Echo. Echo was an AI-driven security protocol, military grade but disguised as corporate software. It had the potential to change global surveillance. I was brought in to shield the company from a whistleblower leak that claimed Weston and Bell were already selling Echo to foreign buyers under the table. On my first day, I met Colton Vale, the CTO, tall, meticulous, with eyes that seemed to read code and emotion at once. He wasn't just brilliant, he was haunted. There was something unfinished in his voice, a kind of hesitation that came from long-term guilt or fear. He didn't speak to me directly until the 3rd day. "You're wasting your time here," he said as he closed the door to my temporary office. The leak didn't come from outside. I tilted my head. Meaning? Someone inside. The boardroom wants this company to burn. I'd heard that before. Internal sabotage wasn't rare, especially when patents were worth billions. But the look in Colton's eyes wasn't the paranoia of a man protecting his job. It was the terror of someone trying to save something they loved, then help me find out who. He didn't answer. He just slipped me a key card. "This opens the vault, but it only works at 3:17 a.m. and only once." I didn't ask why that specific time. I simply nodded, because when someone who looks like they haven't slept in months gives you a card to a restricted underground vault, you take it. That night, I didn't sleep either. At exactly 3:16 a.m., I entered the elevator at the back of the building. There was no button for a lower floor, but when I swiped the card, the display changed. B5, the 5th basement level. The moment the elevator doors opened, the air changed. Not just colder, emptier. Sterile white lighting flickered over rows of servers, a central glass terminal, and a red biometric scanner. My heartbeat tripped. This wasn't just about corporate theft. This was military. Inside the terminal, I found documents, logs, transfers, confidential memos labeled Sparrow Operative, each one tied to a different name. One of them, my father. I staggered back from the screen. My father had been a physics professor at a public university. He never even traveled. But here he was listed under an operation tied to Echo. It didn't make sense. Unless he wasn't who he said he was. The screen went black suddenly. A voice echoed through the speakers. "You shouldn't be here." I ran back upstairs. The office was still. The sun wasn't even rising yet. But on my desk was a folder I hadn't left there. Inside it, photos of me, at work, at home, with Colton. One was from just last week, taken from inside my apartment. Beneath the photos, a note. "They lied to you about everything. Ask your mother's sister what really happened in Paris. 1999, my aunt, Nora." I hadn't seen her since my parents' funeral. She lived in Marseille now, after retiring from the UN. I didn't think she'd take my call, but she answered on the first ring. "Hey Lara," she whispered. "You found the vault. What happened in Paris?" I asked, straight out. Silence. "I was assigned to protect your mother," she finally said. "But I failed. She was pregnant with you during a covert operation. Your father was not a professor. He was part of Echo's original build. Back then it wasn't called Echo. It was just a mirror program. It was never supposed to go public." "I don't believe you." "You already do." She was right. Some small, hidden part of me had always questioned the way my father never left the country yet spoke fluent Russian. The way my mother panicked every time the landline rang. "Hey Lara," she continued. "You're the only living link to what they buried. And they know that now. What do I do? Trust no one, not even Colton." That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at a hotel under a fake name, trying to piece everything together. My past, Echo, Colton, my father's hidden life. But the moment I turned on the news, I froze. Breaking. CDO of Whiston and Bell, Colton Vale, found dead in car explosion outside the company's HQ. Authorities believe it to be an accident. It wasn't. I grabbed the folder again and flipped it over, scanning for anything I missed. And there it was. A second note, scrawled in faint ink beneath the flap. "Don't let them erase you like they erased me. You'll find the second vault where your mother hid it, underneath your childhood piano." I stood there frozen, a breath caught in my throat, because that piano was sold 15 years ago to a man named Rowan Cale, and Rowan Cale was the man who just took Colton's place as CTO. 3 months passed. No one knew where I was. I had vanished into the storm. I changed my name to Eleanor Wren and moved to a coastal town in southern Spain, where no one asked questions and no one cared who I used to be. I worked at a local bookshop owned by a retired professor who paid in cash and left me alone. During the quiet hours, I read my father's journal over and over, memorizing names, dates, every hint he'd left behind. Daniel had murdered our father, if not by hand, then by fear. The pressure, the threats, the stress, it had all eroded the man I once knew. But proving it wasn't enough. I wanted Daniel to feel what I had felt, erased, forgotten, underestimated. That's when I started building the plan. But I didn't expect Adrian. He first walked into the shop on a Wednesday morning. Tall, quiet, wearing a linen shirt and a subtle limp. He bought a book on Spanish architecture and asked me for a coffee recommendation. I told him about the cafe near the sea cliffs. He thanked me, then returned the next day. And the next. By the end of the week, we were sitting on the beach, sharing stories over grilled sardines and cold wine. He told me he worked in finance, but not in the suit and tie sense. More like international investigations, complex family wealth structures, he said with a smirk. I told him I had once studied accounting, then changed the subject. He never pushed. He just watched me carefully, like he knew I was hiding something but respected the silence. One night, I found him reading my father's memoir in the shop. "I thought this wasn't for sale," he said, holding the battered leather notebook. I froze. I read a few lines. "Seems like a man with regrets." I took it from him slowly. "Where did you get that name?" he asked. "Marquez Holdings?" I said nothing. He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Is it true that your brother controls everything now?" That's when I realized he knew exactly who I was, and he hadn't told me. "Who are you?" I asked. He reached into his coat and pulled out a badge. "Interpol. I've been tracking your family's offshore assets for 2 years," he said. "Your brother has hidden over 200 million euros in fake construction projects. But I could never get close. Until now." I felt my blood turn cold. "Why? Me?" "Because you're the rightful heir. And because you're the only one he fears." I should have walked away. I should have told him I wanted nothing to do with this. But something had changed in me since the night I found the journal. I was no longer invisible. I looked at Adrian and said, "What do you need me to do?" We returned to Santiago in silence, traveling separately, using new identities. I was now Elena Velez, claiming to be an independent auditor from Madrid with expertise in corporate ethics. Adrian arranged the interviews and documentation. Within days, I had secured a meeting at Marquez Holdings as a consultant hired by a partner firm. Daniel didn't recognize me at first. I wore glasses, my hair a different color, my posture more assertive. I wasn't the shy sister who used to disappear into corners. He extended his hand, and I shook it without flinching. "I look forward to the audit," I said. His eyes narrowed. During my week inside the building, I planted trackers, copied server files, and quietly interviewed employees. Most were afraid to speak, but a few hinted at missing funds, shell contracts, and forged invoices. All signs pointed to Daniel. One afternoon, I passed by the hallway lined with portraits of past CEOs. My father's face stared down at me, weary and proud. I stood there for a long time. That evening, Adrian met me at a safe house apartment. He spread the files across the table. "This is enough to indict him," he said, "but it won't bring you justice." I looked at him. "No," I said, "that's not enough." I returned to the estate that night. Maria, the housekeeper, still remembered me. She embraced me, eyes wet. "I always knew he was protecting something," she whispered. "He told me you were the only one he trusted. In my father's private vault hidden behind the bookshelf I found it. A video will. He had recorded it weeks before his death. In it, he addressed the board of Marquez Holdings, confirming the existence of the trust in my name, naming me sole heir, and detailing Daniel's threats. If this video is ever shown," my father said, voice breaking, "then I am either dead by natural causes or I was silenced. I ask that my daughter Eleanor be given her rightful place. And to my son Daniel, you were once my pride, but now you're my punishment." I released a video during the annual shareholder meeting. The room fell silent as the screen played. Board members shifted uncomfortably. Daniel stood in the back, his face draining of color. When it ended, no one applauded. No one moved. Then I stood. "My name is Eleanor Marquez," I said, "and I am no longer silent." That night, Daniel tried to flee the country. Interpol was waiting. I didn't attend the trial. I didn't need to. The evidence was overwhelming. Offshore accounts, fraud, witnesses, and the video. The empire fell into my hands. But I didn't want it. I sold the main shares to environmental developers and used the money to build a foundation, one in my father's name, to support whistleblowers and protect daughters who had once been forgotten. As for Adrian, we disappeared together, not into hiding, but into life. Somewhere quiet, somewhere real. One evening, as we watched the tide rise over the rocks, he took my hand and whispered, "You were never invisible." And I believed him.